Good evening. Happy Tuesday. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. Good evening. I am Kimberly Winborne of Kimberly Winborne LLC, and of course, the host of the Collaboration Culture podcast. I'm excited to be here this evening with my amazing guests. And so, we're going to give everybody an opportunity to share. If you are joining us, please say hello. Let us know where you are watching from, what you got going on this evening, but make sure to go ahead and speak. We're going to have a really great conversation. I'm excited because this is a conversation that behind the scenes, many people have. Oftentimes, many people run from it, but it is necessary. And we're going to address a couple things. But one of the things I first want to say is hopefully you had an amazing Tuesday. Hopefully now today is February the 27th. You've been able to kind of get a grip on the year a little bit. You might be propelling now at this point as business owners, as moms, as dads, so forth and so on. So what we're going to do, we're going to slow things down this evening. We're going to have a little conversation and tea or coffee or water or whatever you like. I have tea this evening. It's like a caramel nut. So delicious. And we're going to have some good conversation. If you know a woman, especially a woman who is dealing with various issues going on with her body. If you know anybody dealing with heart health issues, anybody that needs information in the area of health where they're trying to improve, it could be something as simple as rest. We want them to be here tonight. We're going to have a really good conversation. So I'm excited about all three of my guests, and I'm so glad they said yes. Some I've known longer than others, but each of them, when I first met them, made an amazing impact on me. And so I am going to first introduce the one I've known the longest. And she's actually almost like family because my mother loves her, my sister loves her, and I've had the opportunity to have her come speak at various events through the years. I believe I met her in 2016, 2015, somewhere in there, maybe even as long ago as 2014, at an event in Charlotte. And so first we have Ta-Wanda Wilson, a seasoned holistic healthcare practitioner with over 2 decades of experience dedicated to living and promoting a holistic lifestyle. And through her unwavering commitment to wellness, Ta-Wanda's holistic approach shines through in all aspects of her work, driving meaningful change in the lives of her clients. Sharing her expertise and insights in her book, I love this, Breaking My Family's Poor Health How many people have family members that you are concerned about or have a history that you've heard about that you don't want that to be your same story? Tawanda educates, empowers, and inspires individuals to start taking the positive action steps needed for change. And her mission has been to emphasize the importance of creating a holistic health baseline, which includes the 8 essential lifestyle functions and the 6 phases of health. So we introduce to you the founder of Real Wellness, Tawanda Wilson.
Hello, thank you so much. Thank you for having me. This is
Absolutely.
I'm excited about this conversation.
Me too. Me too. I got to share out to more people. Just give me a second. Give me a second. So, welcome to Wanda. Oh
Thank you.
my gosh. Yes. Okay. So we got others. So I'm gonna keep going so we can get to all of the conversation and try to wrap this up so people can go have their peace because that's what we're promoting, right? So
Absolutely.
next up we have Dr. Susan Lovelle, a former award-winning plastic surgeon. Dr. Lovelle is the founder of Balanced Performance, where she blends medical expertise with holistic wellness to enhance the personal and professional performance of busy executives and the teams they lead. So I want to insert about Dr. Lovelle. I met her probably 2018, somewhere in there, and immediately had complete synergy.
Mm.
We did events together. She had me to help her with some things. And I remember the retreat. Oh my gosh, I would never forget the retreat where she had me to come speak. But the experience itself to create that holistic wellness to enhance the personal and professional performance of me, a busy executive, right? And so Dr. Susan Lovelle serves as the founder and CEO of Balance Performance. This innovative platform is designed to help and equip executive leaders with the skills needed to achieve holistic well-being and ignite transformative health and vitality within their teams. And so we got to find out a little bit more about her journey, especially going from plastic surgeon to functional medicine and the various things that she does. So I want to introduce to you Dr. Susan Lovelle.
Thank you so much. I'm so
Absolutely.
excited about this. Yes.
Absolutely. So we got a good evening. Good evening, Samantha. Go ahead and share out the broadcast to your network. This is going to be good. If you have any questions that you've been pondering over and you don't mind asking, you go ahead and get those questions together. I'm excited about that part. Okay, let's come and be real. We are women, we are aging, we are dealing with things. And this show is about the Minority Health Report, right? And so I got that off of a spin off of the movie with Tom Cruise called The Minority Report. So, Tenique Denise, I have not known that long, but we were tasked to collaborate and do a workshop together where we focus on health and finance, two of my favorite things to talk about that I think go so cohesively together. So, embarking on a journey marked by resilience and self discovery, Tenique Denise stands as a seasoned, transformational, self discipline, and resilience life coach. Yes, ma'am. With over 20 years of dedicated experience as the driving force behind My Recipe, My Therapy, Tenique is on a mission to inspire and guide women in crafting their unique recipe for personal excellence. Her profound understanding of women's challenges is deeply rooted in her own life's narrative. Don't we love that? Navigating toxic relationships, overcoming weight fluctuations, and navigating single motherhood while grappling to make ends meet. Her journey through these trials has not only equipped her to uplift women, but also to redefine success and embrace lives that are happier, healthier, and more fulfilling. So we have Tenique Denise this evening, who has a so many other things that she could add to her resume as well. Now, these ladies have some extensive resumes, all three. And so, but we want to get to the conversation. And so we'll learn a little bit more about Tenique Denise. I want you all to follow us after the show so you can read their full bios when I share them. But let's bring this beauty in. All of these beautiful ladies now to the stage. Good evening, Tenique.
Hello. Okay. So I know we haven't known each other a long time. It's
Right.
Tanique. Qua.
Tenique. Oh, I did
Taniqua.
see the QUA. Okay,
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
Tenique.
Sometimes. Yeah. Well, it doesn't have to be so actuated. Like it's just Taniqua. Taniqua. Like Shaniqua. You
Shaniqua.
know, like a Shaniqua. Taniqua.
Shaniqua.
Taniqua.
Taniqua.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I know. It's a tongue twister.
No, it's easy. Usually, the
The
QU
Q
people. Oh,
is a K.
it's just a K. Yeah. All right.
Yes. I'm an 80s
Okay.
baby.
Shaniqua Taniqua. All right. So we are excited to have all of the ladies on this evening. First of all, I want to give you all an opportunity to add anything to anything I've said before we move forward. If anybody has anything, no pressure.
Well, you did an amazing job. I was just
Exactly,
thinking,
right?
like, I could not have introduced myself better. I was like, I need you to do that all the time for me. You did amazing. So thank
I
you for
agree.
that. But
Absolutely,
yes,
I agree.
I'm so passionate about helping women understand that whatever situation you're in doesn't have to be your final destination. You
Yeah.
decide your journey and you own it. Like be the CEO of your life. That's something that I've been carrying with me for a while now, and I just try to
Hmm.
spread that message. Like you own it, boss up. Just like we
Yeah.
clock into our 9 to 5s and take ownership of that. We need
Hmm.
to own our lives just as seriously because it's no joke. This is the one and
Yeah.
the only we get.
Yeah. Absolutely. I hear a little accent. You know, where I hear a little accent. Okay.
Little Brooklyn
Yeah,
in
that's
there.
what I thought. I thought I heard a little.
Oh,
Yes, we got a couple of Northerners on here.
same here. Brooklyn in
Yes.
the
Yeah,
house.
let's not get them started. Okay. All right. So, one of the reasons I wanted to do this sort of a podcast is because, a lot of times, and just the real of it, we sit around. I remember growing up and not really feeling free enough to ask certain questions, but having questions, right? And I think a lot of people in my generation and the generation prior to mine felt the same way. Like, and so as we got older, it was like through different stages, we felt like something was wrong with us, something was wrong with our bodies, something was, things are changing, and it just either I'm dirty, I've done something wrong, whatever, all the various things. When it came to pH levels, and when it came to so many different things, skin breakouts and pregnancy, and just all the various things that happen for women, but even men, dealing with things, because a lot of times men aren't going to the doctor as much, and so they're trying to figure things out on their own. They're macho masculine and maybe haven't been encouraged to go to the doctor and get health checks and all of that. So this evening we're going to talk about I want to talk about some of those real things that you guys run into when it comes to Black women and health. And so sent you all a couple things to really pour over, and I want to dive into functional medicine first. How can functional medicine approaches be particularly beneficial for addressing heart health issues in Black women? Because we know this is Heart Health Month, and minority women are the primary demographic that are dealing with a lot of heart health issues. So, what do each of you have to say to that question? And we'll start with Ta-Wanda.
Oh, okay. So I have a lot to say about it. The first, I'll say Black men, one, die more or have a higher issue with heart health than Black women. We're second though, like we're right there with them. And functional medicine can do so much that your normal MD cannot do. One, because that's not their scope of practice, right? So since it's not their scope of practice, they're not there to teach us how to actually improve our health or what we need to do. So with functional medicine, I feel like if we, one, understand what a baseline is, and we actually get a baseline, and that's what functional medicine does, is it allows us to get a baseline. Now, not just a baseline, but a holistic baseline, because there's a difference between the two. So if you can get a holistic baseline, I think that we will be better educated on what our bodies are doing, and actually what we need to do. And this conversation is so interesting to me because I have a couple of clients right now that are going through some issues with heart health, and they're new clients for me. And I was talking to one of their cardiologists, and he had no idea what an NMR test was. Right. And I'm like, wait a minute, you are a cardiologist. Like, how do you not know what it is? And you're asking me what the acronyms stand for, So we have to do something different because there's so much misinformation and miseducation out there. And functional medicine, I think, with that baseline, will start a really good conversation for people to be able to, one, like I said, understand their bodies, and then also have a better conversation with their doctors when they do go.
Yeah. And Dr. Lovelle, when you answer this, could you also explain what functional medicine is? Because I do like to go into the basics sometimes, and I just dove into the question. So with that, could you also explain what that is?
Absolutely, because that's exactly what I was going to say.
Okay.
A lot of times when I first switched from plastic surgery to functional medicine, I would just say functional medicine, and people get that blank look on their face, like, what?
What is that?
And what I do now is I say it is lifestyle health. So you're changing your lifestyle to better support your health going forward.
Right.
And so that's not just what is your blood pressure, or what is your blood sugar. It's knowing all of those things. So it's knowing those health numbers. Test, don't guess. But it's also, what are your stress levels? How are you sleeping? What are you eating? What is your nutrition? I mean, it's all of these things together that makes up functional health, otherwise known as lifestyle health. So that is absolutely the very first thing to start with.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah. And then as far as, what are we looking at, especially with heart health? Um, I think when I mentioned test, don't guess, and the same thing that Ta-Wanda was just saying, we have, especially in medicine, we have very wide numbers that are considered normal, like blood sugar or blood pressure, very, very wide, because there's a lot of illness in those numbers. And what we need to do is not only to test and understand what our numbers are, but also look at optimal numbers, not just the norm. Because when we're in optimal numbers, then we're going to see the health that we're looking for.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. And was
Kimberly,
somebody
can
about
I?
to say something? Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna, Doctor, can you explain the difference between optimal and normal? Because a lot of times,
That's good.
that's the thing that we don't understand. So you
Mhm.
already on a
Yes,
roll. So
yes.
go ahead.
Oh, yes, I love these questions. That's why I'm so excited. So here's a great example. People will go to the doctor year after year. They get their yearly blood tests. The doctor usually says everything's fine. They go away for a year and then they come back the next year. And then all of a sudden, one year they get a test and all of a sudden they're diabetic. Well, guess what? You look at their labs over the last 3 to 5 years, and they've been creeping up and up and up until they hit that threshold that puts them into diabetes. So, what we want to look at is what are the numbers that are going to be optimal for us. So, say
Mhm.
for instance, with blood sugar, if it gets above 100 when you're fasting, that's in that pre-diabetic or diabetic range. We don't want to wait for it to get there. We want to start looking at it when it's around 90 and starting to
Mhm.
elevate. So we're looking at the numbers that are best for us, optimal for us for the health that we're looking for.
That was a great question, Tawanda. Thank you. And so let's go over to Taniqua.
Yes. Can you hear me? Because I was
Yes.
having some mic issues. Okay, great. So, the amazing thing about this conversation, I was getting chills. I am a Hodgkin's lymphoma survivor. I
Mm.
was diagnosed with level stage 4 Hodgkin's lymphoma in January of 2020. I was going to the doctor every year. So, for me to walk into the emergency room and to be told my levels are so low that they're surprised I could walk into the hospital was
Mm.
alarming. And then looking over my history, my levels, right?
Mhm.
Every time I went to the doctor, they were dropping. And for a young 30, how old was I at that point? 40-year-old woman, 35-year-old woman, the way my numbers were decreasing was not normal. And my PCP failed to say, you know what? This is not optimal, right? For a young, healthy woman of your age, your numbers should not be decreasing steadily year after year. So I think it's important for us to own our health and to understand the numbers and to advocate for ourselves. And to, like I said earlier, be the CEO, the boss in charge, because you can't leave it in the doctor's hands. You have to ask questions. You have to, look at the numbers yourself because it'll say like a negative sign or it'll be in the red and you can say, well, what does this mean? Well, what does that mean? There were a couple of signs that I brought to my doctor and she pretty much brushed it off. So when it comes
Mm.
to our health, if it doesn't feel right, something's not right. And it's okay to stand up and advocate for yourself and get a second opinion, get a third opinion, speak to someone in your family who's a medical professional. This thing, I know I was brought up in the 80s, right? And it was all about, shh, don't tell your business. Shh. You keep your business in house, right? You don't speak your business, you keep it to yourself. And I think what I advocate for is for women to speak up for themselves, to ask those questions, because you never know who can help you, especially
Right.
in regards to your health, especially in regards to things that we don't quite understand. Like I don't have a doctorate, I'm not a doctor, but I do know how I feel, right? And I know that the doctor isn't really giving me the answers that make sense. So I definitely think understanding those numbers, looking at your own numbers, and aligning it with how you feel. Make it
Mhm.
make sense, Doc. Make it make sense. You're not just
Yeah.
gonna push me out the door. It's not okay.
Yeah, and to that, speaking of advocacy, especially in relation to Black women, I do want to talk about, just for a second, since you just jumped on that, how often, especially through the years and historically, many Black women feel like they're not receiving the same treatment as other races when it comes to going to the doctor, going to the hospital, and the likelihood of them feeling secure is lower than other races. Can we speak to that for just a moment?
Yes,
I'm glad you
please.
talked about self advocacy. Dr. Lovelle, I see you nodding your head. What would you say to that particular question?
Oh, I mean, I think we all are aware of Serena Williams. I mean, if someone of her caliber can have an issue in childbirth and almost not make it out of the hospital because of a blood clot, then we
Mm,
all need to be able to be aware of what we're doing and how we're being taken care of. I
yeah.
had the same issue, almost died from a blood clot in the hospital. If my husband
Mm,
hadn't been there to advocate for me, I wouldn't be on this podcast tonight.
wow.
So it's not just, it's not just the socioeconomic issue. I
Hmm.
mean, all of us are at risk. We need to know our numbers. We need to advocate for ourselves.
Mm. Tawanda, did you have anything to add?
I do I anything different than what she just said because that was really important. I
It
think
was.
the understanding the numbers is the biggest thing, and
Hmm.
really, again, I will say having a good baseline because oftentimes when we do get our numbers, they're so used to running the same lipids or the same numbers over and over again that they're not giving you a true baseline. So you have to
Hmm.
understand what a true baseline looks like, and just for example, let's say thyroid, right? They usually run the
Hmm.
same 3 or 4, where you have like 14 that you can run and you're running 3 or 4. So
Hmm.
you really have to do your homework. And I know Taniqua
Hmm.
mentioned being her PCP, right? And for me, I'm like, listen, you're your own PCP. You're the primary care because you have to take care of yourself. When you get sick, you're the first person that starts, finding out or
Hmm.
figuring out what's going on, and then you go to a your doctor, which is your secondary, right? He should be your secondary, and then he tells you, you tell him what's going on. He gives you what he thinks you should do, but then you have to go back home and take care of yourself. So you're your primary caretaker.
Yeah.
You are. So we have to step into that role of understanding who we are and learning the information that we need to learn so that we can go in and have a better conversation with our doctors because they're only going to do what the insurance company allows them to do. Right.
Mm.
So if we can go in and we can say, hey, listen, no, 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 I don't know if I want you on my team if you're not going to do your part. Because
Hmm.
again, like both young ladies have just said, I've had clients who have been going to doctors for years and they get the you're good, you're good, you're good until they come down with cancer. And then they're going, oh my God, how did this happen?
Hmm.
So we really, really have to truly understand what we need to be doing on our end. And this is where
Yeah.
the misinformation, miseducation comes in. So,
Yeah.
working with holistic practitioners and people out there that are really trying to give you the information to stand on your own
Yeah.
and have them as your assistant. They're your
Hmm.
assistant.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of holistic medicine, and I'm a huge fan of listening to yourself and advocating for yourself. Um, I found out that I was gluten free from advocating for myself, from listening to myself. I remember I was about to have a surgery. They were about to diagnose me years ago with something called TTP or some sort of disorder where I would have had to have my heart cleaned, or basically, just to summarize what I would have had to get done every 6 months. And it turned out to be pernicious anemia. I have B12 deficiency. And I said that I was not going to have the surgery until I got my B12 numbers back. So it's those sort of things that people, you have to advocate for yourself because it could totally change the quality of your life. It could totally change the quality of your life. And so many people say I have so much discipline. It's not even necessarily that that's the word. It's that I have decided that I am in control. I am my primary care provider, like you all just talked about. And so as a result, I have to listen to my body. And so I want to talk about when it comes to heart health and when it comes to the African American community, what are some of our unique risk factors for heart disease? If there are, is it more social? Is it more lifestyle, or is it more hereditary? What are our unique risk factors for heart disease that Black women face compared to any other demographic?
Does anybody?
We can start with Taniqua. Oh, we have to you have to unmute. Let's see.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay. So as far as why are we at an alarming rate? I
Hmm.
think it's a combination of all those things. And I think that everybody has their own particular contributing factors to why they can be at high risk. And I don't feel like anybody is exempt. I feel like at the end of the day, we need to all be educated because it could be a socioeconomic reason. It could be hereditary. It could be a combination of those two. And adding on, not the healthiest lifestyles, right? Sometimes we are brought up in a home where we're eating things that we may not eat now. Like you said, you're gluten free. Back when I was growing up, what was that? What are you talking about,
Right.
gluten free? You about to eat this cheese, grilled cheese sandwich and go to bed, right? So it's like now that we know more, we have to do more. We have to be proactive because at the end of the day, we're not doctors, right? So we don't wake up and say, well, I have people in my family and then my lifestyle is not that great, and then my money is cheaper to buy a cheeseburger than it is to buy a salad. Usually the clients that I'm dealing with, they're not putting that equation together, but
Hmm.
it's really important for us to do so
Yeah.
because the math needs to math. You got to make sense. If you're not feeling good, you got to go back and look at why you're not feeling good. Why are your numbers like this, right? Why are your test results coming to be that way? So it's really sad because at the end of the day, we have to own it. But when we go to a doctor, we feel like, well, you're the expert. You tell me. But we're in a day and age where we can educate ourselves. So it's
Yeah.
important to ask questions to our family, right? Like my mom, I may say to her, do we have any history in our family
Hmm.
of X, Y, and Z, right?
Yeah.
Of heart disease, being that it's so prevalent in our community. She may not know. Then we may have to go to auntie, go to grandma, ask questions,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. Google some things, look back. It's
Hmm.
it's just about owning it and caring about it enough because at the end of the day, even our children need to know. And I think
Hmm.
the older we get, as generations come, we get more far and far removed from the history, from the things that we know about our family,
Yeah.
that we need to tap back into it. So I think it's a combination of things,
Hmm.
but I think there is a solution for every. I'm solution based. I'm like solution focused.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is the problem, but give me some solutions, and there is a solution for every single contributing factor.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
and I think one of the solutions to the question is accountability. That is one of the solutions. Like you mentioned so many things. One of the things you mentioned was the information that we have available to us, and I think that is a catch 22 because how many people do you know that just jump online and they're googling everything and WebMD and everything, and then walking around scared and causing other health issues from anxiety and stress
Yeah.
as a result of self-diagnosing. So, I think, one of the things is good that we have that information, but also we have to have people like you all, doctors, people who are holistic doctors, and then also I like both. I like my holistic doctor, and I like my primary doctor. I have my OB. I mean, well, I'm kind of not doing the OB stuff no anymore, but I have my GYN, and so I like my slew of. I got my gastroenterologist, the specialist. So anyway, I believe that we can access the information, but we also have to be intelligent about also seeing our doctor. So you made some really great points, Taniqua. And so Ta-Wanda and Dr. Lovelle, what are your thoughts on that question, unique risk factors for heart disease and or not that Black women face compared to other demographics?
Doctor, I'll let you go first.
Oh, okay. I was letting you go first. Like the
So
chipmunks.
so kind. You all are so kind. Dr. Lavelle.
Um, right. So, I mean, the big three, obesity, high blood pressure, and
Hmm.
diabetes. Those are the big three that unfortunately Black women tend to struggle with. Now, some of it can be genetic. Okay. My dad was diagnosed with diabetes at the age of 70, and so
Mm,
that's why I'm very careful, very, very careful
yeah.
right now. So some of it can be genetic, but a lot of it is, what do they call it? The foot, hand, and mouth disease. you know what what we're actually putting in our mouths,
Hmm.
and we have a choice on that. We're all talking about the same thing. We do have that choice as long
Yeah.
as we know. So the diabetes, the obesity, and high blood pressure. And I know, Tawanda, you've probably heard this as well. I don't feel bad, so I don't need to take my medicine.
Mm,
Oh my goodness. So I'm not saying stop taking your medicine altogether, but the answer is find out, why are you hypertensive? Why is your blood pressure high? Keep taking your medicine until you figure it out. Then you don't have to take medicine anymore because your blood pressure has come down in a more natural way.
hmm.
That's the answer. That's what lifestyle medicine is all about.
Yeah. That just made me think, Dr. Lavelle, about the opposite side of that, where people are like, oh, I can eat what I want. And I'm going to take my blood pressure. I'm going to take my blood pressure pill and I can eat whatever I want. Have y'all heard?
Yes,
I'm
yes.
sure you all have heard that.
Or inject my insulin because I'm
Right.
gonna have my
I'm
pie
gonna
to
have,
inject my insulin.
right. Oh,
Yeah.
my goodness. So funny. Okay. Tawanda, any other thoughts? That was good. Thank you.
Yeah, I think everything that both of the young ladies just said.
Hmm.
Absolutely. I think I will agree with the doctor that it's oftentimes more so what we're doing on a day to day basis, right? Our lifestyle that tends to lead us. It's a very small number, a
Hmm.
smaller number when it comes to being hereditary than
Yeah.
we think, because our lifestyles, we all have, just like we talk about cancer cells, right? We all have cancer cells, is whether or not you're activating them or not. And it's the same
Hmm.
thing with heart issues. Like, we have to look at what we're doing on a day to day basis, because that's a bigger telltale sign of what's going on. So really understanding what you're doing on a daily basis. And it's not just about, and I know that the doctor just spoke on what you put in your mouth, but we have
Yeah.
to be mindful and understand that you can have high blood pressure because of stress,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Because of hormonal imbalances, because there's pressure on a nerve. There's so many different things. But I think one of the things that nobody really talks about is our
Hmm.
oral health when it comes
Oh,
to
yes.
the heart,
Hmm.
right? I tell anybody that has high blood pressure or have had a heart attack or anything, you need to tongue scrape. You need
Hmm.
to be mindful of what's going on in your mouth, because the bacteria that's in your mouth actually travels down into your bloodstream and goes to the heart, and it affects the heart.
Yeah.
And those are things that nobody's talking about. It's
Hmm.
it's just not. They're not talking about it, and there are things that we can do, like tongue scraping or oil pulling, to get rid of some of the bacteria, the biofilm that's in the mouth that can affect the heart. Knowing what our numbers are, like the B vitamins, and understanding what other supplements or vitamins like magnesium that affects the heart. Like, we're usually deficient in a lot of this stuff, and we don't even know it because we're
Hmm.
not getting tested. Or if we hear something on TikTok, we jump right in, and you could be creating a bigger deficiency by just listening to something that you've heard, as opposed to looking at what's really going on with you. And guys, y'all can stop me because I will keep talking. So
No, no. And
I,
you are hitting some really great points, of things that people don't think about, Tawanda. So no, thank you for sharing. Dr. Lavelle, looks like you were about to say something.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about, you were saying, jumping on TikTok and doing things, you can
Hmm.
actually imbalance something else. And you were talking about magnesium. Well, if you increase your magnesium quickly, you can decrease your vitamin D. And a lot of us are already low in vitamin D. So you
Yes.
can really imbalance things. You really need to be careful about what you're doing. Don't just listen to the most popular thing on some social media and then just jump in.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yes,
absolutely.
but that's
And
really.
the other thing is understanding the four powerhouse, right? So as Black women, we're usually deficient in vitamin D, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we have to understand that vitamin D and magnesium and K2 and calcium all work together. Like you have to have like K2 tells calcium where to go in the body so that it's not going to the kidneys, right? So if we don't understand that, and now we go and we jump on the vitamin D, but we don't have any K2 in the vitamin D, so now the vitamin D is not as beneficial to us than we need. So we really need to understand what's going on. And I think, I mean, we can, like you said, jump on YouTube, but you're only going to get so much information. You really need to be working with someone so that we can stop this, because it's ridiculous that it continues to be a big issue for us. And I
Yeah.
would probably have to say this is my last thing, and then I'm gonna let you guys talk.
You can.
Once we understand what's going on with us as adults, what we have to do is start changing what we're doing with our children. What I find is that the adult that's having an issue will change what they're doing, but they don't change what their children are doing. So now you're setting your child up to have some of the same issues that you're having, and you understand why you're having these issues, but you're not changing your child's diet. You're not having them exercise. You're not, working with their stress levels, their mindset, and all this stuff. So now they're going to go through the same cycle all over again, because we're not having them shift and change and learn from our mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah, that's you guys both all just said so much that I want to talk about, but I don't have time because of the really honestly, I have so many questions when you talk about the need for this coupled with that, when it comes to vitamins, minerals, all those different things. You talked about K2, who people don't even know K2 what, like, and so it's like it's all these different letters, different terms, different, and it's like, what do we do? I know so many people, Black women and even men, struggling with the vitamin D deficiency and just feeling lethargic and horrible. And then it's like, well, okay, you go get they give you the Drisdol, or you try to do it yourself, and you never can catch up with it. But you just talked about how, as a result of another deficiency, vitamin deficiency or mineral deficiency, it could be the reason why you can't kind of catch up with it. So it's just so many different things to that. And so the reason I'm kind of retorting all of that is to highlight the reason for you all. So I want you to, each of you, kind of plug yourself for a second. We're not at the end of the show at all, but I just want each of you to kind of plug yourself in a way that shares with us, and especially those who haven't ever heard any of this stuff before. Why is it important to have sort of both sides of the coin when it comes to the MD, and then which Dr. Lovelle is kind of like everything, but anyway, and this side of medicine, holistic wellness. So I'll start with you, Ta-Wanda, and then go to Tenique, and then Dr. Lovelle.
Um, it takes, just like we say, it takes a village, to raise. We have to, it's the same concept with our health. Like, one person doesn't know it all. And that's the reason why I started my business, is because when I was working with the doctors, everybody had their specialty that they were doing, but nobody was looking at the people's health in its totality. And that's the problem. Like, you have all of these specialists looking at their own individual things, and nobody's looking at you overall. And so that you have to understand and create a wellness team, or a team of practitioners. And in that team of practitioners, right, you're going to have your MDs, and you're going to have your specialists, you're going to have your holistic, practitioners, but you have to choose who needs to be on your team, and you have to understand who you need to go to at what time. So it's definitely beneficial to have your, both sides of the coin, because if I get in a car accident, don't take me to a chiropractor, right? Take me to the hospital, but I want to make sure that I have, the right person on my team, because everybody's not supposed to be on your team. Everybody can't play. Everybody can't be there, because they're not doing what they're supposed to do if they're just focusing on what the insurance company is telling them to do.
Yeah. All right. And now, Tenique, I'm gonna unmute just in case. Okay.
You said insurance company, Ta-Wanda?
I did.
Did you say? Yeah, I got the chills because, oh, baby, they have an agenda, right? But Anyway, that's besides the point. So, look, that's a whole nother episode, right? Here's my thing. I recently hired a whole new um, team of medical experts. Everyone, from my GYN to my oncologist to my physical therapist, everybody is new because I wanted a change. I
Mhm.
had to own it. I had to take the steps. I had to do the research. I had to look at their reviews because the reviews speak to people's satisfaction with certain practitioners. So that's another piece of it. Do your research, see what your doctor's um, history is, what their satisfaction rate is. That was a big piece for me. And when I walked into those offices for the first time, it was love at first sight. I had built these connections. I promise you. It was like I was looking for you. And she was like, I'm glad you found me. You know what I'm saying? And I felt really good because I owned it. It wasn't about who the hospital or who my insurance provider assigned me to. We can
Mhm.
no longer do that. Those
Mhm.
days are long gone, especially for Black women, especially for Black women. So my thing also is we all have our own recipe. That's why I named my company My Recipe, My Therapy. I truly believe that once you find the recipe to your best, healthiest, happiest self,
Mhm.
that in itself is therapeutic. That is self therapy that we all need. Can no one can give that to us. So I
Mhm.
think it's really important that you build a wellness team, be it a coach, your doctors, which we need them all, right? The dentists, especially. I'm so glad you brought that up, Ta-Wanda, because people do not take their oral health as seriously as they should. And it really is can be the issue of life and death when it comes to even your oral health. So I think that owning all of it, like really sitting down and writing down your medical providers. Where are you with them? How do you feel about them? Who do you want to replace? You are the CEO. You get to hire and fire. What I mean, that's what
Mhm.
Tesla does. Why is Tesla more important than you? Right? Like I think I'm worth more than a company that sells cars. I'm a human being. So for
Mhm.
me, it's like, no, I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna own this thing. And for me as a life coach, that's what I encourage and guide and support my clients to do is to take that time, carve it out, that accountability piece. But you're going to sit down, we're going to figure this thing out. You have to find your recipe. There is no one others. That's like I can say to Wanda, who do you go to? You know, what do you do? That's not going to
Mhm.
work for me. It's not. Maybe I can take a piece of it. Maybe I can go gluten free like him. Maybe that'll help, or maybe it won't. But until I find the recipe to my best, healthiest, happiest self, I got to keep searching. And as we get older, it changes. The things that worked for me when I was 20, they won't work at 40. Well, they
Mhm.
didn't. I'm here to tell you they didn't. I'm 42. You know what I'm saying? Things
Yeah.
change, and but it doesn't magically sprinkle out of the sky. I
Mhm.
just want to say to our viewers, own that thing. It has to be intentional. This is not magic. Nobody's coming to save you. Nobody's going to come knock at your door. Sometimes we get lucky or blessed because I don't believe in luck, right? Sometimes that
Mhm.
comes. But at the end of the day, when we talk about longevity, when we talk about our entire lives, it's really important to own it.
Mhm.
Own
Yeah.
it and really take charge.
Yes. Thank you for that. And you know you guys are not bragging on yourselves, right? But I love all the beautiful things that you're saying, but I just know I'm watching, I'm seeing that y'all that's fine. Okay. Dr. Lovelle, I'm gonna give you an opportunity to correct this wrong. I mean, this is great information. I hear all the passion, but yeah, just really quickly, if you could just sort of brag on yourself, like why reach out to you? Why?
Oh my goodness. Because I lived it. Because I
Hmm.
lived it. Because I made all of the possible mistakes you could with the stress and the no sleep
Yeah.
and pushing myself and ended up in the intensive care unit 3 times in the space of a year.
Hmm.
And that's why. That's
Yeah.
why. And when I went to my primary care after that third time, because I knew something had to change, they just gave me steroids and
Hmm.
said, and shoved me on my way. And I said, that didn't work. And the way I healed was through lifestyle health,
Hmm.
changing what I was eating, getting better sleep, balancing my hormones. And I looked at plastics, and I love plastics, but then I looked at what I could do now with people to really change them from the inside out.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I made that switch.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh,
powerful.
yes. Mm-hmm.
And that's powerful. That is
That's
powerful.
powerful.
And so I want to, you kind of jump into the next question when we talk about lifestyle changes that we can make in order to, like Taniqua just said, create our own recipe, our therapy. And so what changes, what things, what lifestyle practical tips can you give us that Black women can implement to improve their heart health, or even anyone who has that as an issue? Because, like Ta-Wanda said, it is also an issue for Black men. As we know, of course, we're focusing on women for this particular show this evening as we kind of drip into Women's History Month. I wanted to sort of close out with that. But just overall, how can we give some practical tips or lifestyle changes that we can make to support improving our heart health?
Great, great. I love that question. In balanced performance, we have four quadrants. So we call it eating elite, moving more, living wisely, loving divinely. So eating elite doesn't mean eating, caviar and champagne. It means eating the right foods for you at this
Mm-hmm.
stage in your life. And like you said, you realized that you had to stop eating gluten. That
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, it's not necessary for everyone, but it was necessary for you, right?
Right.
So that's knowing what you know. Then it's moving more. And we don't have to be in the gym these days to move. We just need to move, get up and walk up and down the stairs, just move more throughout your day.
Yeah.
Living wisely is getting that sleep that you need. That's usually 7 to 9 hours of restful sleep. A lot of us think we can survive on 3 or 4 or 5. We can't, not on a consistent basis.
Mm-hmm.
Getting your hormones in balance and reducing stress.
Mm-hmm.
And then love is loving yourself enough to make the changes you need, and then loving those around you to be able, as Ta-Wanda was saying, to share these things with them. So it's this ripple effect.
Yeah.
And if you do those four, you can literally change the expression of your DNA.
Wow, I love that. And I believe that is something, the way that you just broke it down, I think everybody would say, you know what, I can do that. But I think, health becomes so overwhelming for people. But having that broken down in the way that you just did, and with the titles, loving myself, eating elites, living, like those are all adjectives and things that we all would be attached to as a result of how they're presented. And I think that's a big deal. How things are presented sometimes can be a turn on or a turn off. And
Yes,
Tawanda,
yes.
I want you to answer that question next. But thank you, Dr. Lovelle. I love how you've come up with this formula and how you present it to us.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go slightly different because the doctor just hit on a lot, Dr. Lovelle hit on a lot of really good points. I'm going to say, one, looking at your health in quarters, breaking your health into quarters is going to be really important when you're looking at lifestyle, because like you said, when you're looking at all this information, it can be a lot,
Yeah.
but I think the first thing that you have to do is understand that there's a hierarchy to health. Right.
Mhm.
So if you have diabetes, let's just use that as an example, you probably need to get that fixed first before you can start to do anything else. So there's a
Yeah.
hierarchy of knowing what's going on, but how do you know what you need to work on? So for me, what I use in my practice is something called the 8 essential lifestyle functions. Right.
Hmm.
And it's very similar to what the doctor was just saying. But looking at those 8 essentials and evaluating and assessing those and reassessing them regularly will help you with understanding where you need to be, where and what you need to be focusing on at, a particular time, understanding what phase of health you're actually in. If you're in the rebuilding, repairing, recovering, re-educating yourself on some stuff, or reinforcing some things that you're now learning or have been doing. So it's we really have to start looking at, we can just go and jump into changing some stuff like exercising, but exercising could be one of the things that's causing you to stress your body out because you're an athlete and now you're overworking out, right? And
Mm.
so now you're depleting yourself of more vitamins and minerals, and you're creating a bigger issue, or you're throwing your hormones out of whack and you're not able to do it. So we have to really look at we need to assess. and find out where we are and what we need to do, and then go into taking the positive action steps that we need to take in order to fix ourselves and
Yeah.
understanding that hierarchy. I hope I
Yeah.
answered that.
You did. You did. And Taniqua, do you have anything to add?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think what I have to add is just a combination of both ladies, what they said, because at the end of the day, it is so much that falls under both of those umbrellas, all of those umbrellas, right? It's impossible. And that's the part that becomes overwhelming, right? For the average woman, the working mom, the working wife. What's important is that you find the recipe. I always go back to that. It's because it really truly is important that you understand what you need. Like you said, exercise may not be what you need. That could be causing a stressor. Living well, what does that look like for someone who hasn't been living well? What changes can they make? So I think it's really important to find someone, because here's the thing, I believe we don't have to do it alone. And I think
Hmm.
a lot of us feel like we're in this by ourselves. We got to figure this out.
Yeah.
We are raised to be strong. We don't have to be all the time. The struggle is over. We no longer have to struggle. We can gain that support. We can reach out for help. We can get an accountability partner like myself, a life coach, right?
Hmm.
Like Ta-Wanda and Doctor. And it's okay. We're going to normalize making these a conversation, making this a normal conversation so that we can get the help that we need, so that we can spread the message, because it is okay to want help and to need help and to not understand all the, language and all the things,
Yeah.
right? But it's
Hmm.
it's also okay to take a step back and say, okay, what do I need for me right
Yeah.
now?
Yeah.
So
Absolutely. What are some things that you all run into? And Tawanda, you sort of touched on it earlier in a sentence, really quickly. You talked about myths and things that people believe that may not necessarily be true. And when it comes to our health, our wellness, especially as women, but just as a minority people, what are some things that we have been conditioned or that you hear people say that they truly wholeheartedly believe that really is a myth that we can debunk today? And it may be something that gets kind of up under your skin a little bit, but you don't have to reveal all of that, but like help the people. Let's help us out, help your people out on this evening. And we'll start with Dr. Lovelle and then go to Tawanda.
I think the biggest thing that I hear that drives me crazy is mom had diabetes, so I'm going to have diabetes, so I don't need to do anything about it. Or dad
Yeah.
had high blood pressure, so I'm going to die of. And we can do so much about with our health if we just make these changes, understand what we are, and
Hmm.
start making those changes. We are
Yeah.
not doomed by our genetics, not at
Hmm.
all.
Yeah. Yes. That's a good one. What about you, Tawanda?
That the medication that they're on is going to help them fix it.
Hmm.
Medication is to manage a situation, not to fix a situation.
Hmm. That's
Mhm.
powerful.
That was a sentence. Now that was
Right,
hard for me to just do a sentence.
right,
that was that was
right.
look, round of
You hit
applause. That
right.
was a
Yes,
that was a
yes,
powerful sentence because I you
yes.
know I think most people do operate that way, both of the things you both just mentioned. Taniqua, what about you?
I would say that self-care is expensive. It
Mhm.
absolutely does not have to be. I do a
Mhm.
lot of self-care at home. I have gotten so creative. My family looks at me like, what is wrong with her? What is she doing now? Don't worry about it. It's
Yeah.
self-care. So it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be expensive. It's not a luxury. This is something that we deserve.
Mhm.
And it actually can be very affordable.
Yeah, that's a good one. I think when it comes to self care, people do think of like just going to the spa, getting a massage, getting your nails done, hair done, things like that. But give an example of one of those things because I think this is really good to share. One of those things that you do that is creative that you add to your self care bucket.
Let's see. Personally, that I have added, I've done yoga at home, which I think a
Mhm.
lot of people think they have to go to a yoga studio and pay all this money. You can actually do it at home, and it is very therapeutic. It's very relaxing. It does center you and calm you. I know we didn't grow up with yoga, but a lot of people did, and now that we have been putting on, we have
Mhm.
been put on to how healthy it is. I think it is very beneficial. Meditation is free.
Yeah.
Um, I introduced someone that I love very dearly to meditation
Mhm.
months ago, and she kind of brushed it off. The
Mhm.
other day, she said to me she meditated for 45 minutes and she has never felt that way before. She
Wow.
said, I before I knew it, I was asleep.
Mhm.
And I was just so happy for her because it's like,
Yeah.
yes, you don't know until you know. So
Yeah.
I know it seems people kind of stray away from things that are trendy.
Mhm.
Everybody's talking about yoga, everybody's talking about meditating,
Mhm.
and people kind of say, I'm tired of hearing about it. But no, it's trending because it works,
Yeah.
right? The
Yeah.
gatekeepers have opened the gate. Take
Yeah.
notes. It's trending because it's a thing. Try it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the things I want to do as we wrap up is close out with talking about some of the kitchen table conversations that you wish that, and it could be a list. I know we won't get to. I got to have you all back so we can actually get some Q&A and all of that going. But some kitchen table conversations that you wish that you had been a privy to as a little girl or even growing up. That maybe just one thing that you wish that you had been privy to that changed your life once you did know and now you want to share with other people. What's one of those things? We can start with Ta-Wanda again.
I don't know. Like I'm thinking, like seriously,
Oh,
I'm
well,
thinking
does
like
anybody know since she can have a moment?
no.
Oh,
Look,
Go ahead, go ahead, go
Tenique. Okay, go Tenique.
oh, there's a few, but just to name one, I wish I would have been a part of the red flags mean run, sis. A red flag, run,
Hmm.
right? Like, in all seriousness, your partner, who you choose as a partner, is detrimental. Like, it can be between life and death. It is truly a very
Important.
serious thing. Who you let into your body, who you let near your body, who you lay next to every night, is not to be played with. Take
Hmm.
it very seriously. And when you see a red flag, that does not mean slow down, it means run.
Mm, that's a good one. Thank you for sharing that.
Hmm.
Red means run, Forrest.
Oh.
Okay. Dr. Lavelle.
Um, well, I was actually really blessed to have a mom who was way ahead of herself in the times as far as health was concerned. So we
Good.
grew up like ahead of the curve.
Mhm.
And it was only when I got into my teen and early 20s that I started falling away from what mom told us when we were growing up.
Mhm.
So it was really coming back to what the way I was raised that helped to go forward and to heal going forward.
Awesome. Well, that is a blessing. All right, and
All right.
Tawanda.
So I'm gonna my now my life was the opposite of you, Dr. Lavelle, where I was doing the wrong things. And then I started shifting my life and my lifestyle when I was in high school and in college. So that's why I'm like, I don't know what, could have been
Mhm.
different because I was doing the research. I was reading medical journals and I was, learning. So I don't know what conversation I could have, I heard the conversations about diabetes and, in the neighborhood, it's like, oh, the sugar, and she's got sugar and she's got, the water pill and all this stuff. So I heard those conversations. I just disagreed with a lot of the stuff that I was hearing.
Mhm.
And that's what made me shift and change what I was doing because
Yeah.
of my family's health. And of course, I raised my children in the lifestyle and have been doing this for what now, like over 30 years, which means I'm telling you guys, like, I'm over 50 or 50.
Yeah.
But, so that's why it was kind of hard for me to answer
Yeah.
that question. But
Mhm. Well, thank you. Thank you.
you're welcome.
No, there's so many conversations to be had, so many conversations that were had, but maybe just a little bit behind the curve. But one of the things that we know is life teaches us so many things if we're willing to listen and we're willing to learn. And so these are just opportunities to share. And one of the reasons I wanted to really focus on health, and why I will continue, and like I said, I think I should have you back because the conversation needs to continue. I wanted to talk about some other stuff too, but I had a couple other questions in the middle that led us in a different direction. But I think that finance, money is so much affected by our health, and health affects our money, that people don't parallel the two. And one of the things I do as a financial consultant is really help people to think through the mindset, the behaviors, the various things that can help to enhance their financial situation. And health is one of those things. So if we get our health under control, get a lifestyle that supports stewardship in our health, it will also support that in our finances and vice versa. And so that's why I consistently want to, especially for my community, but for all communities, to be able to provide resources and information that will impact, hopefully, and then therefore yield to improve. That's all we can do, like one person at a time, right? So I want to thank each of you for joining me this evening. It has been amazing. Any last comments or thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah. Just to kind of speak on what you were just saying, even with finances, I think that our beliefs and our values have a lot to do with what we do when it comes to our finances and with our health.
Yeah.
And that's something that we can't forget to mention. Like, before you can truly start making changes and make a healthy lifestyle, you have to change your mindset first.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the hardest part for a lot of people, is to change and stick to something. I find that it's tough for people to stick to something for 90 days. And
Yeah.
so if it's tough for you to stick to something for 90 days, then of course you're going to go back to doing the same things that you did that caused whatever issue you have. And
Yeah.
now you have a cycle of, oh, this didn't work, this didn't work. And it's truly just because we don't have the discipline, or we haven't changed our mindset in order to do what it is we're looking at doing.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. And in my coaching in finance, that's one of the reasons why in the debt detox, we start with financial reconciliations. What do you need to forgive yourself for? Because that's going to keep you trapped. And then what's the mindset that you exist in now? Where do you want to go? And what are the other mindsets? And where did you learn your behavior from? So once you know better,
Mhm.
you can hopefully apply new information to do better. And it is so true. It is so true, Ta-Wanda. Like, mindset is something, and people will begin to make excuses and say, oh, it's because you can do it, I can't, well, you're disciplined, I'm not. Oh, but you're all of that. And I say, no, we can all do it. I'm no different because I have the same structure, brain cells, and God made me just like you. So thank you for sharing that, because it is so very true. Dr. Lovelle, any closing thoughts?
Yes, I love listen, let go, and live. So that is, listen to what your body's telling you, because your body is so wise and it knows exactly what it needs at this time. Let go of whatever isn't serving you, whether it's gluten or a person or a
Mhm.
job
Ooh,
or stress. Let it go if it's not serving you. And then live your own version of thriving. And only you know what that means to you.
yeah, so good. Listen, let
Okay.
go, and live. And Saniqua.
Yes, absolutely. It goes back to what I said earlier, that once you own your life and decide that you are the CEO, you are the boss, you get to make the rules and you can change
Hmm.
any situation that you're in. Like Tawanda says, it's a mindset, but that has to be intentional. You don't
Yeah,
magically get a new mindset. You actually have to do the work, and it is work. Like,
yeah,
sometimes I think we say these things and it sounds easy and it looks pretty, and we put all these bows and flowers on it. No, it's ugly. It gets hard. Tears, snot booger and tears, like they say, right? And it can be very, very difficult to make these changes, but it can happen, and it's
yeah,
worth it.
yeah.
It's definitely worth it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, thank you all for joining once again and for your wisdom. For anybody who would like to be on the podcast and or a sponsor, please reach out to me at info and to the team at info@coffeeandcollaborations.com. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Coffee and Collaborations, and then on YouTube at Coffee and Collaborations Media. This will be our sixth year, going strong in April. Yeah, so in April it'll
Congrats.
be our 6th year. So I'm really excited about that. We're gonna keep going, keep pushing, and we thank you, all of you who have been our guests, and all of you who continue to watch, for watching and for trusting me and trusting Coffee and Collaborations Media with your time. So you all have a great, great rest of your evening. This is our show. I want to make sure that you have the information of all of these ladies. So it's been scrolling across the screen. Be sure to reach out, especially if you need to make a transformation in your life, in your health. So to do better, you have to make a choice and live that thing out, and you can be better. So have a great rest of your evening. Thank you again for joining. We will be back here next week with another guest right back on the Coffee and Collaborations, the Collaboration Culture podcast. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
night.
This has been a Coffee and Collaborations Media production.